If Harry Potter was set in the United States, how would the story change? Keep in mind, when the first book came out, it was just another kid's book. The US publishers didn't think enough of the US population had heard of a philosopher's stone before. She didn't make it up, the name and idea is very old, and 2. They didn't think a children's book with philosopher in the title would sell. By making the change, they made the type of book more obvious from the title while widening the appeal. If it wasn't for the minor detail that Sorcerer's Stone isn't the correct name for object being described, the change makes perfect sense. Harry would probably live in New Jersey, Ron would probably live in Kentucky or Tennessee, and Hermione would probably be from California. They would go to Ilverny. I spelled it wrong, it's the North American Wizarding School, which is in Massachusetts. There would be a train, but only for people in Boston, New York, Philly, DC corridor. Everyone else would use flying cars. Outside of that, it is a typical American boarding school. Ayn Rand's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. You're a wizard, Harry, Hagrid said, and you're coming to Hogwarts. What's Hogwarts? Harry asked. It's wizard school. It's not a public school, is it? No, it's privately run. Good. Then I accept. Children are not the property of the state. Everyone who wishes to do so has the right to offer educational goods or services at a fair market rate. Let us leave at once. https://thetoast.net/2014/05/27/ Ayn Rand's Harry Potter Sorcerer's Stone / For people who like this, check out LPD, Libertarian Police Department, by Tom O'Donnell. I was shooting heroin and reading The Fountainhead in the front seat of my privately owned police cruiser when a call came in. I put a quarter in the radio to activate it. It was the chief. Bad news, detective. We got a situation. What? Is the mayor trying to ban trans fats again? Worse, somebody just stole $447 million worth of bitcoins. The heroin needle practically fell out of my arm. What kind of monster would do something like that? Bitcoins are the ultimate currency. Virtual, anonymous, stateless. They represent true economic freedom, not subject to arbitrary manipulation by any government. Do we have any leads? Not yet, but mark my words, we're going to figure out who did this and we're going to take them down. Provided someone pays us a fair market rate to do so. Easy, chief, I said. Any rate the market offers is, by definition, fair. He laughed. That's why you're the best I got, Lisowski. Now you get out there and find those bitcoins. Don't worry, I said. I'm on it. I put a quarter in the siren. 10 minutes later, I was on the scene. It was a normal office building, strangled on all sides by public sidewalks. I hopped over them and went inside. Home Depot presents the police ! Registered, I said, flashing my badge and my gun and a small picture of Ron Paul. Nobody move unless you want to. They didn't. Now, which one of you punks is going to pay me to investigate this crime? No one spoke up. Come on, I said. Don't you all understand that the protection of private property is the foundation of all personal liberty? It didn't seem like they did. Seriously, guys. Without a strong economic motivator, I'm just going to stand here and not solve this case. Cash is fine, but I prefer being paid in gold bullion or autographed pen Gillette posters. Nothing. These people were stonewalling me. It almost seemed like they didn't care that a fortune in computer money invented to buy drugs was missing. I figured I could wait them out. I lit several cigarettes indoors. A pregnant lady coughed, and I told her that secondhand smoke is a myth. Just then, a man in glasses made a break for it. Subway meat fresh and freeze. Scumbag! Registered, I yelled. Too late. He was already out the front door. I went after him. Stop right there, I yelled as I ran. He was faster than me because I always try to avoid stepping on public sidewalks. Our country needs a private sidewalk voucher system, but, thanks to the incestuous interplay between our corrupt federal government and the public sidewalk lobby, it will never happen. I was losing him. Listen, I'll pay you to stop. I yelled. "What would you consider an appropriate price point for stopping?" "I'll offer you a 1/13 of an ounce of gold and a gently worn Bob Barrow 8 extra large long-sleeved men's t-shirt." He turned. In his hand was a revolver that the Constitution said he had every right to own. He fired at me and missed. I pulled my own gun, put a quarter in it, and fired back. The bullet lodged in a USPS mailbox less than a foot from his head. I shot the mailbox again, on purpose. All right," the man yelled, throwing down his weapon. "I give up, cop." "I confess, I took the bitcoins." "Why'd you do it?" I asked, as I slapped a pair of Oikoston Greek yogurt presents handcuffs registered on the guy. "Because I was afraid." "Afraid?" "Afraid of an economic future free from the pernicious meddling of central bankers," he said. "I'm a central banker." I wanted to cold cock the guy. Years ago, a central banker killed my partner. Instead, I shook my head. "Let this be a message to all your central banker friends out on the street," I said. "No matter how many bitcoins you steal, you'll never take away the dream of an open society based on the principles of personal and economic freedom." He nodded, because he knew I was right. Then he swiped his credit card to pay me for arresting him. Hermione Granger would become Harmony Danger, and she would be blonde and have no actual lines. She would just smile seductively and wink a lot. Ron Weasley would become Ron Weathers, and he and his family would be black, but only to tick a box for marketing purposes. Ron's role would be simply to be Harry's sidekick. Harry Potter himself would actually be Harris Potter, and he absolutely would fucking not be wearing glasses. I can tell you that right fucking now. Okay, this has been driving me crazy for 7 movies now, and I know you're going to roll your eyes, but hear me out. Harry Potter should have carried in 1911. Here's why. Think about how quickly the entire Wizarding World War III would have ended if all of the good guys had simply armed up with good all-American hot lead basilisk. Let's see how tough it is when you shoot it with a .470 Nitro Express. Worried about its Medusa gaze? Wear night vision goggles. The image is light amplified and retransmitted to your eyes. You aren't looking at it, you are looking at a picture of it. Imagine how epic the first movie would be if Harry had put a breaching charge on the bathroom wall, flashbang the hole, and then went in wearing NVGs and a Kevlar weave stab vest, carrying a SPAS 12. And have you noticed that only Europe seems to have a problem with gladiators? Maybe it's because Americans have spent the last 200 years shooting deer, playing GTA, Vice City, and keeping an eye out for black helicopters over their compounds. Meanwhile, Brits have been cutting their steaks with spoons. Remember, gun control means that Voldemort wins. God made wizards and God made muggles, but Samuel Colt made them equal. Now I know what you're going to say, but a wizard could just disarm someone with a gun. Yeah, well, they can also disarm someone with a wand, as they do many times throughout the books/movies. But which is faster, saying a spell or pulling a trigger? Avada Kedavra, meet Avtomat Kalashnikova. Imagine Harry out in the woods, wearing his invisibility cloak, carrying a .50 BMG Barrett, turning gladiators into pink mist, scratching a lightning bolt into his rifle stock for each kill. I don't think Madame Pomfrey has any spells that can scrape your brains off of the trees and put you back together after something like that. Voldemort's wand may be 13.5 inches with a phoenix feather core, but Harry's would be 0.50 inches with a tungsten core. Let's see Voldy wave his at 3,000 feet per second. Better hope you have some essence of Detony for that sucking chest wound. I can see it now. Voldemort roaring with evil laughter and boasting to Harry that he can't be killed, since he is protected by 7 Horcruxes, only to have Harry give a crooked grin, flick his cigarette butt away, and deliver what would easily be the best one-liner in the entire series. Well, then I guess it's a good thing my 1911 holds 7+1. And that is why Harry Potter should have carried a 1911. Well, in the fanfic Harry Potter and the Super Bowl breach, Snape and the Order coordinated with the SAS to bomb the fuck out of the little Hangleton graveyard. Dawlish had one piece of equipment in addition to the invisibility cloak and rifle. However, he would likely not be using his wizarding abilities. Instead, he was in charge of a small but powerful infrared laser beam. This beam was used to guide the bomb in. The infrared goggles served three purposes. Night was falling, and it would be difficult to see in the dark without them. The laser beam would be clearly visible to the soldiers, but not to the targets. Finally, the Scarecrow, aka Wizard Snape, believed that wizards hiding under spells may, just may, be visible to modern infrared detectors. A disillusioned wizard had been captured on a video camera. The pilot grinned and nodded at him. "It's called a helicopter. Ever heard of those?" Arthur shook his head. "I heard of airplanes, but I haven't heard of these things." "Are they a type of airplane?" "Yes, though they don't work like ordinary airplanes." A flash of light announced Snape's arrival at the graveyard. His Death Eater mask was on. As usual, all of the Death Eaters he knew of were there other than the four he knew would be absent: Lucius, Wormtail, Rodolph Huss, and Karkaroff. Now the faux glass suddenly perked up. It was ghostly and fuzzy. People unfamiliar with Muggle technology would likely have just passed it off as a shadow. However, Snape knew better. It was a missile or bomb. He feigned a look of concern. Turning to Voldemort, he said, "Sir, I'd like to scour the grounds to make sure there are no Muggles or wizards eavesdropping on us." With that, Snape paraded out of there. He reappeared on a hill about a mile away where he would have a good view of the target zone. The center of the graveyard erupted in a pillar of flame. Rocks flew all over the place, followed by charred body parts. The concussion nearly deafened Jacob and the rest of the SAS men, yet they held their positions. They had no idea if any of the wizards had survived the attack. There were bodies everywhere. No one had been left standing. The Death Eaters had been caught completely off guard. As for Voldemort, he'd been right at the center of the blast. There was no way he could have survived that. He had almost certainly been vaporized, and the Tin Men had reported that he had still been there when the bomb had come in. The pilot looked at the crew and cheered. Seconds later, Dawlish and the SAS men joined them. One man brought out a victory cigar. The chant rang through the night. Ding. Dong. The witch is dead. Buried in a mound of rubble, a deformed creature the size and shape of a human baby played dead. Imagine Harry out in the woods, wearing his invisibility cloak, carrying a 50 BMG Barrett, turning Death Eaters into pink mist, scratching a lightning bolt into his rifle stock for each kill. "I don't think Madame Pomfrey has any spells that can scrape your brains off of the trees and put you back together after something like that." Voldemort's wand may be 13.5 inches with a phoenix feather core, but Harry's would be 0.50 inches with a tungsten core. Let's see Voldy wave his at 3,000 feet per second. Better hope you have some essence of Detony for that sucking chest wound. Swoon. Well, education in Hogwarts is free because they see the absolute necessity of wizards mastering their powers, but everything that has to do with that education, clothing, books, still has to be paid for. Let's keep in mind that the most expensive item required for class, a broom, is not mandatory because Hogwarts provides them to their students. Just better to have your own if you play Quidditch. Yes, food cannot be transfigured from objects, but magic can stun an animal, kill it, cut flesh and bone and create fire. You can transfigure something inedible like wood into something edible like mushrooms or plants. You can turn a cat into a goat, make it magically milk itself and turn milk into cheese. It's more that you can't turn a log into dinner, but you can certainly turn it into something edible with other magic involved. Ron wouldn't have been able to pay tuition and his family would have been broken by medical debt. House elves? Food appearing at the tables in the Great Hall? No. Line up and pay for it, you freeloading kids. Albus would have been in jail for tax evasion because he never paid the annual licensing fees for his stolen wand. Lucius getting caught as a Death Eater would have propelled him into being appointed as Treasury Secretary by Voldemort, who obviously would have won an election on the slogan "Make Magic Pure Again." There wouldn't have been tests to get into the Chamber of Secrets. Harry would have just deposited the required gold into the bank account listed on the door, and the Order of the Phoenix would have been listed as a terrorist organization spreading communist Taliban propaganda at liberal training camps, otherwise known as colleges and universities. Harry would be a trust fund jock and subpar student who is liked by everyone and passes most of his classes based on who he is and his status as a star athlete. He would frequently flout the rules, and be rewarded for it because he's special. Anyone who doesn't like him would be portrayed as a complete douche. Eventually he'd graduate, marry his high school sweetheart, have a couple kids, and become a cop. Oh wait. It makes it easier to perform magic, especially for children, so they can quickly master basics. Over-reliance makes them unable to perform magic without it, though. They are supposed to be able to perform non-verbal magic by graduation and simple spells without a wand. Dumbledore and Voldemort would perform non-verbal magic with a wand and their hands simultaneously with ease, but that's a skill few ever get to. Tried counting up how many times the exact same handful of jokes got used. Lost track. I think the rankings are school shootings in first place, followed by student loans, even though Hogwarts is a public high school, then shitty healthcare, and fat jokes after that. Special mentions go out to everyone would be entirely one-dimensional character archetypes I picked up from a conversation about a spoof of a parody of high school movies made 30 years ago and the surprisingly robust showing of LOL. I bet there's a bunch of teen pregnancies, because we all know those are exclusive to the United States. I know the US has serious problems, guys, but really. My high school's mascot was a witch too. For the Salem Witches, all our sports teams were the Salem Witches. Our colors were white and black. All jerseys also had a witch on them. I have been out of high school for 11 years, but I still have my high school sweatpants. I moved away and actually in the Bible Belt now, gag. And I wear my high school sweatpants with a witch on them all the time to see people cringe. The ones calling themselves purebloods would be the same as in real life, and the Civil War would have had purebloods in the South and everyone else in the North, fighting on battlefields while others obliviate the Muggle soldiers. Harry and his family would probably be black, and Voldemort would have been the evil mind behind Greensboro, Oklahoma. Macusa would have been founded in Salem but moved to New York before World War I, with a rogue government in Chicago that allowed wizards to exploit humans while still maintaining secrecy. Wealthy wizards would have their own menageries around Middle America, importing them illegally from all over the world. There'd be a whole department dedicated to hiding Sasquatch species like giants in the UK. Would have spent his life in foster care, got dumped into Skid Row with a trash bag full of clothes and 2 candy bars, gotten arrested, raped in prison and put in solitary for what he did to his rapist. The only person who wasn't afraid to bring him food was the prisoner from the Green Mile. With John's assistance, Harry escapes just before John Coffey's execution and somehow finds his way to Hogwarts. The Hogwarts Express would be a plane, and it would platform gate 9 and 3/4 would be in a big airport, like O'Hare or Lax or something. There's a few options for Harry is from A and the school is in B. Maybe Harry is from New Jersey or Boston and the school is upstate New York. Maybe he's from Maryland and the school is in West Virginia. Maybe he's from the suburbs of Chicago and the school is in South Dakota. Or he could be from Salt Lake City and the school could be in Wyoming. Maybe he's from Seattle and the school is in Alaska. Something like that. Harry is from an urban, suburban area, and the school is in a vaguely nearby but much more rural, rugged place. Or maybe that's what Area 51 is. Harry is from Salt Lake City or Phoenix or San Francisco or something. and the school is in Area 51. That would work. The founding of the school would be 300-500 years ago, not 1000. If it's closer to 500, it would have to be further east, but maybe the colonial wizards had some kind of contact with the natives and went west way before the Muggles did. No houses, lol, we don't do that here. I'm not sure what they'd do instead. The Quidditch World Cup from Book 4 would be the Quidditch Super Bowl between two states, with the whole deal about pure blood versus mud blood. There would be parallels with real race relations in America. The Salem witch trials have a national memorial holiday every year in the wizarding world in the US. People do like a never forget kinda thing like we did do for 9/11. Actually, now that I say that, maybe the school is in Salem and the trials were a catalyst to its founding.